को नाजरीन, लंदन लिविंग विद रिजवान रशीद आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर है। आज का ये प्रोग्राम खुसूसी तौर पे केट ग्राहम के साथ है। केट ग्राहम जो ओंटारियो प्रोविंस की लिबरल पार्टी की नॉमिनेशन के लिए जा रही हैं। आज उन्होंने पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी के साथ इंटरेक्शन किया। तारिक खान साहब ने अपने घर पे उन सबको इनवाइट किया और इंटरेक्शन का आगाज़ किया। केट ग्राहम का ताल्लुक लंदन ख़ास से है और ये यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ वेस्टर्न ओंटारियो की यूनिवर्सिटी में पीएचडी प्रोफेसर्स हैं पॉलिटिकल साइंस की। उनका एक बहुत अच्छा जो स्टडी था वो मेयर्स के बारे में था कि मेयर्स कैसे सोशो पॉलिटिकल बारे में कैसे उस पर असरअंदाज होते हैं। उसी सिलसिले में उन्होंने अपनी ये बिड आगे की है। बड़े ज़बरदस्त सवालात थे, माहौलियात के बारे में सवालात थे, स्टूडेंट फंडिंग के बारे में सवाल था, ड्रग अब्यूज़ जो लंदन में है उसके बारे में था और एनवायरनमेंट ओवरऑल। केट ने दर्जा बदर्जा बहुत सारे सवालों का जवाब दिया और मेरा ख्याल है मैंने पहली दफ़ा किसी पॉलिटिकल आदमी को देखा है जिन्होंने कहा कि मुझे शायद सारे सवालों के जवाब नहीं आते, मुझे आपकी ज़रूरत है। और यही वजह है कि उन्होंने एक्सेप्ट किया कि पॉलिटिकल पार्टी जिन्होंने एक बड़ी बदतरीन शिकस्त का उनको सामना करना पड़ा था पिछली इलेक्शन में, और इसकी वजह से उन्होंने कम से कम इवन पार्टी की हैसियत से फारिग हो गए थे। तो इस सूरत में केट ने किया कि लिबरल पार्टी ने दर्जा बदर्जा, क्योंकि वो इतने सालों से यहाँ पे बरसर इक़्तिदार रही है, लेकिन वो दर्जा बदर्जा ऐसे हर प्रोफेशनल, हर जानने वाले अच्छे पढ़े लिखे लोगों के साथ उनका कनेक्शन कम होता गया और उनका ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दारोमदार GTA में रहा, जिसकी वजह से वो कनेक्शन दूर हो गया। तो इस वजह से उन्होंने पार्टी को लॉस दिया है। बड़ी अच्छी गुफ्तगू रही। आइए मैं आपको उनकी गुफ्तगू का हासिल दिखाता हूँ और मिलवाता हूँ केट ग्राहम से, जो कि लंदन में पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी के साथ इंटरेक्शन कर रही हैं और अपनी पॉलिटिकल बिड के बारे में तफसीलात दे रही हैं। आइए।
Project, basically finding out what people had to say about why they did what they did and voted the way they did and what we have to do to change as a party. So finally, I just want to read a bit from the email that I send out to all my supporters because it's important for me. I am supporting Kate because she's running to strengthen our democracy by empowering people to rebuild the Ontario Liberal Party into an inclusive, exciting, appealing, and powerful vehicle for political change. She's also running to build a party and a government that will implement these bold and progressive policies, not just talk about them, and that are needed to solve the immense challenges facing our province. So without any other fanfare, I'll just introduce you Kate Graham, the next leader of Ontario.
Thank you very much to each of you for coming tonight. I am quite humbled actually to have such a full room of people to speak to, and I feel like I will learn a lot from you tonight during this conversation. But to kick it off, I'll just share a little bit with you about me and why I'm running. To the women in the room, this will be a little repetitive, so I'm sorry. We just got into this conversation upstairs. But as Dan mentioned, so I spent a decade working at City Hall and had no intention of going into politics, to be quite honest. I was finding a lot of value in working behind the scenes and being able to get things done in the community. Really enjoyed my work, but there were a couple of things that I'd been working on for a long time where I knew that we needed more help from Queen's Park. And two of the things at the top of that list, number one, this is something you will know better than I do, but London has a very acute challenge when it comes to the mental health of people in this community. We've got the second highest injection drug use rate in the country. I live in Oldies Village, and this is something where we see people every single day who are struggling with crippling addictions, and in a place like Ontario and Canada, it just doesn't feel right. The second thing was about transit. I had been arguing for more funding in our transit system. For me, it's about climate, it's about equity, it's about affordability. And so these were things we've been working on for a long time. And my MPP, our MPP, Deb Matthews announced that she was not going to be running, and she asked me to run in her seat. And my initial answer was absolutely not. I have a great job, I'm finding a lot of value in what I'm doing. And when she pushed it to me though and said, you know, if you say you actually care about those things, if you say you want to see change at Queen's Park, if you say you want to see people in politics who care more about the people in London, then how far are you willing to go? What are you willing to do? And when I couldn't quite answer that question satisfactorily to myself, because the honest truth is when I walk through Oldies Village and I see people who are struggling, or I see people who are waiting in the cold to go to school or work and there's full buses passing them by, there's nothing I wouldn't do to be able to help. And so I quit my job, I ran as your candidate. Just like every single Liberal candidate, I lost, almost every Liberal candidate, but learned a lot through that experience. And one of the things that was really striking to me, and I kind of knew this going in, but it's quite different standing on about 50,000 doorsteps and hearing people talk about it, is how very broken our political system today is. I heard people talk about how disillusioned they are, how they feel like nobody is listening to them, how powerless they feel. And it feels to me like political parties are actually a big part of the problem, including the one that I was running for. And so I am running for leader because we have an amazing opportunity right now. So the Liberal Party is in the worst spot it's been in its history. We've lost official party status, we're very in debt, we have lots of ridings where there's almost no organized people, but it gives us an opportunity that we don't get very often. So the party is going to rise up again. Right? It is going to reemerge, and it can reemerge into something very different. We don't know what that looks like yet, and that's the reason I'm running, is I want to shape what that looks like. I believe our party has become too partisan, and parties generally, where there is a lot of focus on creating differentiation, you know, talking about how great one party is and how we should be afraid or not believe the other parties. And I don't buy that, and I don't think a lot of people buy that anymore. I think we need to see more working together. People who have different ideas need to listen to each other if we're going to make progress. So I want to see a party that is less partisan and more focused on people. We are using a frame that we've borrowed from New Zealand, where we examine the well-being of people, and that is the central goal in everything that we do. And so if we are to look at how do we improve the well-being of people in Ontario, right now there are 4 priorities that we're focused on. Number 1 is about making Ontario carbon neutral. Number 2 is addressing affordability. Things like childcare, access to post-secondary education, long-term care. The third one is about jobs and opportunities. We can talk about what that looks like here in London. And then number 4 is about empowering people. And I'll just share a little bit about this, and then maybe we can open it up for some discussion. I believe that Ontario is too big and too diverse a place to be able to make decisions across the province. And so I would like to see more empowerment of communities, in hospitals, in schools. You know, we can talk about lots of this in lots of contexts, but if you talk to teachers right now, they are feeling very much under threat. And they're also feeling like there are big changes being made to how education is delivered without enough opportunity for teachers to provide input. And I know a lot of you are physicians. I have a feeling a lot of you have been feeling the same way too, at least based on what I've been hearing. And we have to change that. Queen's Park does not know best. Politicians do not know better than you do about the work that you do. So I want to change how government happens in Ontario. I want to change the culture inside the party, where it is much more about listening to people and empowering people and focusing on things that make people's lives better instead of focused on partisanship and winning elections. So that's the kind of change I want to make. It is a really exciting moment in many ways. In the next 3 months, we are going to pick a new leader. It'll be at a convention in Mississauga on March the 7th. And the party will begin on a new path. And we have an opportunity to shape what that path looks like. So it's a real treat for me to be running. And I would love the opportunity to work with each and every one of you on this campaign. This is a chance to contribute ideas and be a part of something where we can change the way we do politics in Ontario. So thank you very much for being willing to come out and have this conversation. And I would love to hear from you about some of the changes you want to see.
Can I request Dr. Sardar to say a few words from
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Zahid Sardar. I'm not here to speak on my behalf actually, but first I want to thank Tarek and Dr. Shazia for the invitation. In London, we have a political action group that sort of looks after the interests of the London Muslim community.
Yes.
It's called Hikmah.
Yes.
And Tariq Nawaz couldn't be here today, so I'm going to speak on his behalf.
Okay.
So he sent out an email saying that after looking at all the candidates, he's actually supporting you in your campaign to be the next leader. So I just wanted to let you know that. I do have one. Can I just use just a question?
Go ahead.
So as a physician, you probably know that the last Liberal government, we had a lot of issues with the way they tried to deal or did not deal with the physicians in a way in terms of our schedule of benefits and fee schedule. And we had, Eric Hoskins, and that sort of relationship that was there was, very toxic, and we had to have arbitration come in and so forth. Can you speak to that, what that process was, and how you would change going forward in terms of your relationship with the Ontario Liberal government and the physicians?
Yep. So thank you for the question. It's a very good one. In terms of what's happened in the past, I have both the blessing and the curse of being new. So I was not a part of the previous processes in that, but I do believe that the party owes physicians an apology. I heard this door after door when I would be speaking to physicians during the campaign. We have heard this since, is that the relationship between doctors and the provincial government is a really important one, and it does rely on trust and feeling like the provincial government is hearing from you and is trusting and valuing the role that you play. And I heard over and over and over again that people were not feeling that way. So we're going to have a lot of relationships to rebuild. I'm not sure what your experience has been like over the last year with the current provincial government, but my sense is that these relationships are continuing to weaken, and I think we need to really turn a page. And again, that's the opportunity we have with rebuilding a party, is to say, a lot of things have happened in the past, and some relationships have been broken, and we are in a point where trust has been lost. And we have an opportunity to rebuild that, but it starts with listening, and it starts with a provincial government that does not believe it knows better than you do about what's needed in the healthcare system. I'm not going to pretend to know this better than you do. And so we need to do more listening and empowering you, because healthcare is like the top provincial priority. It's the largest part of the provincial budget. We need to be hearing more from doctors about what we need to see happen in that system.
Let me introduce top 20 under 40,
Yes.
Dr. Sukhay.
Thank you. So I have to leave early, so this is perfect timing. I just wanted to share with everybody how inspiring I think I find Kate to be. I also think that many of you in this room have children. So when we think about politics and we think about role models, there's a huge lack of role models in politics, but someone like Kate would be someone who would be an amazing role model for our children, not only when it comes to politics, but when it comes to the spirit of engaging with our communities and being involved and engaged in civic work and service to our community. So I just wanted to say that. I have to leave, so I'll leave with a question. Can you share with everybody a little bit about why you're putting well-being at the forefront of your campaign? And relate that to, for a lot of us who belong to communities that are diverse, like you see in the room, the concept of well-being can be really eroded by issues like prejudice and discrimination, whether it happens in workplaces, whether it happens in schools or with the police. So I think it's really important for an audience like this to know why and how that connects to the core idea of well-being that you've built your campaign around.
Sure. So there are a lot of different things that governments focus on, right? And you can listen to any political speech and you can get a sense of what people actually care about. So sometimes it's about things like GDP and the economy. Other times it's about system performance in healthcare or education. And all of those kind of measures are helpful, but they are not as important as looking at people. I think that is the fundamental unit of a society. Each and every one of us in Ontario, I believe, have a right to a happy, healthy life. And there are things that get in the way of that. And the role of government, to me, is it's an opportunity for us collectively to address those problems that get in the way of people living happy, healthy lives. Now, of course, what those things are that get in the way, it's a little bit different depending on where you are. Sometimes it's things like poverty. Sometimes it's things like mental health. Other times it's things like experiencing racism. All of these are problems that we collectively, through politics, through government, need to be vigilant in addressing. And so I believe that a big part of this, though, starts with some agreement on what this is all about. You know, why are we in politics? Is it about winning elections? Is it about being able to gain power and hold on to power? Or is it about helping people? And I think we need to begin with that fundamental truth that politics is about people and helping people. And the reason each of us get up in the morning or get involved in politics is to help people. So it sounds like a very basic idea, but it's one that we've seen a lot of progress with progressive governments around the world. So earlier this year, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, she introduced the world's first well-being budget, where every single resource decision that her government is making is evidence-based, based on the things that are getting in the way of people having a great quality of life in New Zealand. And I would like to see every decision that the Ontario government makes be that same thing. Starts with a good understanding about the people in this province and the things that they are struggling with, and we apply government resources not based on, you know, how things have been traditionally funded, but instead based on what are the things that get in the way of people having a great quality of life. That should be what drives our priorities.
Thank you. Before I go, so it's not enough, I think, to sign up as members. Hopefully we've already sold you over. We want you to sign up people that you know all over Ontario, your friends, your family. We have 2 days. I also think it's really important to donate to Kate's campaign, because that also sends a message. In order for us to show the rest of the party and the rest of the province how strong her candidacy is, I would encourage everybody here. 2 days we have to sign up members, but also throughout the campaign to raise funds and donate to the campaign as well. So.
I know that Javid needs to head out, but if I could just make one comment about, and I know I said this upstairs earlier, and I'm going to point to my friend Maddie again, if you don't mind, but the best thing about a campaign like this is seeing people step up in big ways. You know, Javid, you have 1,000 things you can spend your time on. You are so busy and so accomplished, and yet somehow, miraculously, he is finding time to be a big part of this campaign. You know, and even coming to events like this, speaking, helping to sign up members. It is so humbling, and I hope you know how much I really feel that you are willing to put your support behind me in this campaign. I also want to point out Maddie. So Maddie is, to me, we spend all day, every day together, and she is an amazing example of the power of politics. So Maddie is a recent graduate from Western. She lives with her grandparents and takes care of them. She nannies and she runs marathons. I don't know how that's all possible. We met in somebody's living room about 5 weeks ago, and she decided she wanted to volunteer, and she's been with me almost every single day since. Yesterday we left at 5 o'clock in the morning. We went and did conversations like this in communities as far over as Brockville and back to London within one day. We do that every single day. And sometimes before we leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, she runs to a 24-hour grocery store, gets groceries, takes them to her grandparents' house, comes back, and volunteers all day long. Wow. So she... On our campaign, we have more than 200 people who are actively involved in the campaign. These are all people who are busy. They have other things going on in their lives. They have other people who are relying on them, but they are excited about the idea of things changing and being able to be a part of that. You know, a lot of people talk about wanting change, but it's not enough to just want it or complain about it. It's quite something else to step forward and say, you know what, I'm going to go and do that. And that's what this campaign is all about. It's people who say, you know, there's something that's not working for me or not working for people I care about, and I'm prepared to actually do something. So Javid is gone now, but that's a long way of saying thank you, Javid.
Last week, when we started off, so we went to a cricket game.
Yes.
Where like all 50s play cricket, try to play cricket.
Yeah.
We call that game cricket, but we cannot define it as cricket.
Okay.
So, and one of our friend who is here, and I told him, hey, you have to be a member. He said, I'm a liberal since like when I entered into Canada, when I landed in Canada. I said, I don't know. Then he sent his card. I said, oh, this is a federal liberal. So then he said, oh, there is a two liberals?
Yes.
I said, yes, Dr. Aslam. Dr. Aslam, can you say something?
Yeah, I have been supporting liberals for 20 years now, and
You're nominated.
one of my very close friends, a family friend, Yasser Naqvi, and he's like a younger brother to me, and we have been supporting forever.
Great.
And I thought that you signed it one time, and I told him that I'm a member. He looked at the database and said, You're not. But anyway, we went there, me and my wife, and became a member, and it was an eye-opener for us because we thought that we are liberal. So that's true, and that goes with all of us. Go and see your numbers and see if you are a member or not. And I think by this time most of us are already members, and all of us kids, 14 and up, everybody has 2 or 3 kids in this room, and we cannot force them. We can always talk to them, and if they are willing, then we'll sign them in the next 24 hours. Yeah.
I think if you pay their membership fee, they'll go along.
That's not a problem. Paying the member, the decision should come from them.
Yes.
Paying membership is not a problem for any of us. All right, and our supporters with us, and you need us anytime, we are here.
Thank you.
All right.
Very much. This process is very confusing to a lot of people, and we've just come through a lot of politics. In the last 18 months, we've had a provincial election, municipal elections, and then a federal election. So very few people are thinking about, provincial politics right now, other than teachers. We're thinking about it a lot right now. And the way a leadership process works is quite confusing to people. So the best way to get people involved is to do a one-on-one ask. So talking to people around you and saying, if you want to vote for the leader, you have to be a member by 6 o'clock on Monday. It's the single best way for us to get new people involved. So thank you very much for talking to, not coercing, but talking to your children. That's a big contribution. Thanks.
For today's event, it's different in nature from like how we interact with the people because we, let's say, we have 40 friends around. Aslam is also one of them. So one of us invites us on a weekend. So if somebody invites me right now, I say, okay, let me check my schedule for the next 40 weeks. So that's the, so when we were talking about to have this event, it was challenging for me as well, that whom I should invite and whom I should leave. So if I see 25 people, because of the fire code, I have to be under 50 in any case. I've been in city management in my whole life, so I know these things. So we wanted to keep everything like under 50, but at the same time, I also I was thinking to invite at least representatives from other communities. So like from Afghan community is a considerable large community here. I have requested Mr. Mustaba to be here just to represent that community because they were planning to have their own event, but because of the time we were not able to do it. And then I have Ali Shabar. He has been the instrumental for the Lebanese communities. And you know, the way how they sign up form, they don't go online. They said, okay, give me the form. 50 form. Okay. People are, hey, this is you, this is you, this is you. I will collect in the night. So, Ali Shabar, I will request to, Abdul Shabar. Ab Shabar. Okay. Sorry. I'm 57. So, Ab Shabar, he has a political background. He has been a mayor for a town in Lebanon. So, and I think he also arranged a naming of 2 streets, one in Lebanon and one in London, in last Matt Brown's tenure. So, Ali Shabar, up to you.
Thank you. You always confuse me.
Yeah.
I ran once for city council a long time ago, and so I knocked on the doors, and he said, "Who do I call you, Abe or Ab?" And I said it to him. I said, "Listen, vote for me, and you can call me whatever." So, anyways, thank you, Tariq, for inviting us. I said that earlier. My question to you, Kate, is this: why did we lose the last election? Is it because we had bad policies, bad decision, or because of a leader that we had? I want you to answer those
And
questions.
do you mean me personally or the party? The whole party?
Whoever leads this party, okay?
Sure.
Usually when we lose an election because of those reasons, either we make bad decisions or we lose or policies that need to be renewed or bad leader.
Yeah.
So tell them, why did we lose?
So after the last election, I led something called the Listening Project. And it was a group of largely new Liberal candidates who ran, like myself, who'd all just lost election. And we reached out to every single candidate who ran to have a conversation, to say, thank you for running. It's a tough election. How are you doing? But also, what do you think happened? What was the problem? What was the message of this election? And what does the party need to do going forward? And so we published, and you can find this online if you're interested, it's about a 40-page report that captures the feedback from that process. The number one thing that we heard in terms of why we lost was a sense that after 15 years in power, the Liberal Party had stopped listening to people. It had stopped listening to professionals, it had stopped listening to various communities. This was more true the further that you got outside the GTA. So there's a feeling that the party had become very Toronto-focused. You can look at the map, and it wasn't just the last election. Election after election, we started losing support in huge parts of the province. All of the north, the southwest. When I ran in London North Centre, this was the last Liberal seat in all of southwestern Ontario, and I lost. And when I was a kid growing up in Exeter, there was lots of Liberal support in the southwest. So there was a feeling that the party had kind of concentrated decision-making in the centre too much, to the point that it lost touch with people, lost touch with the things that people care about, appreciating that that is different depending on where you are. So my answer would be that it's kind of a mixture of all of those things, but that after a long time we stopped listening to people, and we have to change that.
How you can motivate the youth, because you are still trying to win this race, and how you can manage and how you can advise us, we can motivate youth to promote you and vote for you. What is your strategy, what you have in your plate for them? That's my question.
So I teach undergraduate students, and when I ask a class, how many of you are members of a political party? Like 0 hands go up, maybe 1 or 2. But when you ask people, do you care about climate? Every hand goes up. So I think the way that we do politics has to change, and it will change with the generations. People do not care about political parties the way that they used to, but they do care about issues. And so when people say that young people are disengaged from politics because we don't see them voting or taking out party memberships, I think we are looking at the wrong thing. When you see tens of thousands of people marching in the streets about climate, when you see thousands of students walking out of high school classrooms to protest changes to education, those are signs of engagement. I believe that the younger generation does care a lot about issues, but when they look at the way that politics happens right now, it feels kind of fake. It doesn't feel like it solves problems. It doesn't feel meaningful. They see leaders standing up, and it feels all about gaining power and talking about, putting down this other leader and talking about why you should be afraid of this other person and why you should support me. It feels more like a sales pitch than it does like a meaningful opportunity or invitation to do something. So young people are organizing in different ways. They're organizing on social media to walk out of classrooms. That is a political organization that we have to pay more attention to. I'm actually not interested in seeing young people, kind of fit into our existing ways that we organize ourselves politically. I'm interested in seeing politics adapt based on how we know people are getting involved.
Last week, my boss invited me. She ordered me that we need something, and I need to be dropped over there. So we went, and there was a gathering of 160 bosses, women. So I went into it, and I tried to, find out who is the chief organizer. So chief boss. So, and then I asked, hey, sister, why didn't you invite Kate? And you know what she said? I tried to reach out Kate, but she refused. And at 180 degrees, she invited another woman as an MP to come and intermingle with. Then I said, how it is possible? She said, I
Kate Young.
invited Kate Young.
Yeah, Kate
I said,
Young.
it's another Kate.
I was like, I don't think we've turned down a single invitation to talk this entire time.
And
So,
then
okay. I was
I
like,
said, oh, come on. And then when we started off, the first door we went to, Sister Afshan's. So, Afshan, can you say a few words?
Well, honestly, whatever we can do, we will definitely support you. But then that's what I'm expecting. You being there will be you being our face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am like that.
Yeah.
And I have been very much politically involved all my life, like even back home. Even when I was in college, when I started university, I was very much involved. And I've always, I am, that's who I am. That's who my grandparents were. So please make sure that if we are on board, that we will be in touch.
Yes,
So you will definitely have our support, and all of my sisters whom I'm talking, they are getting on board, they are registering, and we will be supporting you. And
Wow.
definitely in fundraising also.
oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dan and he actually, gave me an honor to be at my house, and we had a discussion a little bit about that, how to do this thing. And from the very next day we started, and Alhamdulillah, we are making our way. And I can just say that we will definitely support you, and we will definitely make our full efforts.
Talked about the IV drug use. My encounter with my patients most of the time is the marijuana use.
Yep.
And I'm seeing more and more people are accepting of it, and I'm seeing more people using it. And I had heard when it was being legalized that it would be very strictly regulated, and it is not. So where are we heading? There is a big correlation between marijuana use and the people who are on social assistance from the government. So are we promoting that cohort of people, and that cohort is getting bigger and bigger? So where are we heading with this, bill that we passed and legalized marijuana? That was my question upstairs.
Yeah, and we just got talking about it, and I was saying I'm not going to pretend to know more about this than those of you who are seeing patients every single day who are struggling with this. I do share your concern. This was a federal decision, but there are really significant provincial implications. There's also big implications on local governments. This is something that we experience as a community, and we need to find solutions to as a community. But in terms of what those are, you are seeing patients every day who are choosing to take advantage of what is now legal in Canada, but we know that there are some significant social considerations that we also need to make. So this is something that's changing a lot, but and I certainly don't have the answer to, but we need to be talking a lot more about. And I think this is where we were kind of headed upstairs, is I would really love to hear from you, and you talk about stricter regulations about exactly what you would like to see.
So I'm a family physician, and I have the privilege of working at London Intercommunity Health Center. So whenever some policy happens, I see how it affects the homeless person on Dundas Street up to the most affluent stratospheres of the society. I simply want to know, how are the concerns and how are the observations communicated to you? Because you mentioned that you realized that the party wasn't listening. In my 14 years in Canada, now is the time that I have seen people losing trust in all three political parties, and they're more confused than ever. They have no idea where to put their weights. How do you propose that you listen, that people feel they are heard, and then people who are observing these changes and the impacts and have some ideas to communicate to you, how do you propose that they actually get it to you, reach you, and know that they are heard?
That is like the question, actually. That is exactly the kind of change that we need to see in politics, and it's not one that's going to be easy. Right now, and this is the political scientist in me, would tell you that for decades, we have seen an increased trend towards a centralization of power, where the Premier, and if we're talking Ontario, and the Premier's office has more power than before, and where all kinds of groups are trying to push in, advocate for something or have their voice heard. But when power is in the center, there are only so many things that can get in. And so this is like the most fundamental shift that I want to see in the politics of Ontario, is that instead of having power concentrated, we have power dispersed. And so, you know, you work at a really important organization. We live on Princess Ave, by the way, so we're like 3 blocks away from you. So the people that you are serving, we see every day. And I'm not sure that people at Queen's Park know better about the needs of those people than you do when you're serving them every single day. But we know that there are lots of people and organizations that don't have the money and power they need to solve the problems that they see in front of them. And so I want to see a dispersion of power where organizations like yours, who have the best understanding about what is needed, have the resources that you need. Now, there are only so many resources to go around. There obviously is a role for the provincial government to be able to keep a sense of what is the most important, what are the top priorities. But, you know, I think it's widely acknowledged that mental health and addictions right now are at a point of crisis. And so if your organization is finding that you don't have the ability to serve people to the extent that you need to, then that's a provincial government problem. That's something where we need to fundamentally change. So it's not an easy fix, but I do think that what you expressed, people feeling powerless, it's one of the central problems in our society right now. When people feel like they don't have power, they will find it somewhere else, right? They will go, and sometimes it expresses itself as hate or violence. And so we need to live in a world where when people, you know, understand something or care about something, they actually have the capacity to do something about it. Can I just say a very sincere thanks, Tariq and Dr. Khan. And I say Dr. Khan because she is my doctor. But I very much appreciate you opening up your beautiful home for this event. Thank you, Dan, for the generous introduction. And thanks to each of you for making time to come out. As I said, like, this is a very bright, talented room. You have a lot of experience and knowledge in things that I will not pretend that I have. And so my invitation would be to each of you, if there are things you want to see change in the province of Ontario, if there's things you want to see change in the Liberal Party of Ontario, this is our chance to do it. And so I would love to work with you on this campaign. That can look like a lot of things, like making connections with people who right now might not know that this is an opportunity. If you have a policy idea or something specific you want to see in the province, please let us know. All of our policy work is just the product of people who've stepped forward to be part of the campaign. And if there are people who want to sit down and have a conversation, I am very open to that. As I said, I don't think we've said no to a single invitation. I learned something from every conversation, and so please keep those coming. I would love to keep talking. So thank you very much.
केट ग्राहम के साथ पॉलिटिकल इन्विजन विद पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी, और उन्होंने अपने बारे में सारी चीज़ें बताई और हमें दिखाया कि कैसे वो लिबरल पार्टी की प्रोविंशियल